Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, and the time is 6:31 p.m., and I'd like to call the meeting to order. First on our agenda is the consent agenda, minutes from September 17th, 2024. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from September 17th, 2024.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Next is warrants 19 and 20, which have been passed around for signature. Questions or comments on either of those? Hearing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve warrants 19 and 20.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record for the meeting.
Is that just me?
For tonight, it is, yeah.
Okay, should
Here,
I?
come on up right here and have a seat next to Todd.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Ready?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I am Liz LaFawn. I'm a relatively new resident to Granby, but this will be my final move. Sold my house in Hatfield where I was for 30 years. And I know you have a vacancy on the school committee. So I wanted to come and introduce myself. I know nothing about the process or how you've gone about the process to get applicants. But I will tell you that I did serve 2.5 terms. I was originally appointed to fill a vacancy in Hatfield back in the 2000s, early 2000s. After both my kids graduated and some folks stepped up who had younger kids in school, I thought it was a good opportunity for me to step away. But I loved the work and the work with my colleagues on behalf of the students in Hatfield. And I think overall we did a pretty good job for the district. Never easy. This is the least glorious elected position in any community, but you're doing the best work in my opinion because it's about the kids, right? And how you can help them get to where they need to be in life. I'm currently living on Pleasant Street with my daughter and my son-in-law and their 2 boys, which is an adventure for sure. We're building a new home down on Phillip Drive, so we're waiting for that to be finished. I currently work for the Mass Association of School Committees as a field director, where I've been in various capacities for, gosh, I lose track of these things and I guess I don't pay close enough attention, but probably 8 or 9 years, and full-time for the past 4. So school committee work is really something I know very well and I have a great passion for because of the impact it can have, not only on the students who attend the schools, but the community as a whole and how you and how we can work to help the community support the schools.
Excellent. Well, we're very excited to have you here.
Well, I'm very excited to be here.
So I have been speaking with our town clerk, Kathy Kelly Reagan,
Okay.
and what she said is once we have a name, then we can go ahead and bring the name forward, and it would be it's filling in for a spot that is been vacant. So there's about 4.5 or 5 months left on that existing term.
Okay.
And then if you're happy with it and you would like to continue pulling papers for the position for the next 3-year term would be, I think it's in February-ish timeframe.
So you must have May elections.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think we pull papers, return them back, or maybe it's March and you have to get them back. And then town elections is early-ish May, middle of May. And it's a 3-year term. But this would be for we'll call it a 5-month appointment.
Has it been vacant for 3 years?
No, it's been vacant for about 6 months,
Okay.
maybe?
Mhm.
Give or,
In April, March,
March, May, right?
well, it's October 1,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
about,
Yeah, 5 to 6 months.
we'll say 5 months. And so we've been down one, which does make it difficult.
Mhm. For
So
quorums.
yeah,
Yeah.
for quorum. So especially with other things that people have going on in their lives. So
Yes.
so we would love to have you join us if you're willing. We can bring your name forward. If you have other specific questions, we can try to answer those the best we can. But it seems like you probably know more than we do.
Oh, I don't know about that. I certainly don't know more than you do about Granby.
Mhm.
I do know Mary Jane, and I've known her for a few years now, anyway, 3 or 4 years, through my work with the School Committee Association. I am interested because it makes a big difference. I've known your past 3 previous superintendents through my work. And so I have somewhat of an idea about the needs in the district, but I have an awful lot to learn. I have a few commitments on my calendar, maybe not too many on Tuesday nights, but I'm sure I have a few through early December that I would have to work around, and beyond that, I would look to just not schedule meeting nights,
Mm-hmm.
which I have some flexibility to do.
Excellent. I don't know. I'm not really sure how the whole thing will work. So I will reach out to
Yeah,
Kathy Kelly Regan tomorrow. And actually, I'll probably just send her an email while we're sitting here and just let her know. And then she'll let me know how we're going to go about with the process.
I couldn't find anything in the town bylaws about what the process would be, and I know that small towns often.
So it's, we've had this situation. I'm starting my 7th year. And we've had this situation a few times, and depending upon when it is in the term, it's been done a little bit differently
Okay,
each time. One time it was for a 2-year thing, so we had interviews and everything. Another time it was a short stint like this until the next process for pulling papers, and we had a joint committee meeting, or we actually, I think, attended a select board meeting. They asked a couple of questions, and
sure.
then you just had to go down to the town hall to get sworn in.
Okay, and there's, I did not also see like a 6-month or a 1-year residency requirement to fill an elected position in Granby.
I'm not aware of that, and it
I
hasn't been.
didn't see it.
So I'll send Kathy an email and fill her in on what the situation is, and we can kind of go from there.
I've been here since the beginning of August, and believe me, after moving from my home of 30 years, I do not plan on moving again.
You need her address.
I have we've corresponded
Yeah.
on email, so I have your cell phone and I have your email.
Great.
And once I touch base with her, I'll reach out and we'll see how it goes.
Great.
And
I'm actually very excited about this. I haven't served on a school committee in a long time, but I work with school committees pretty much all day, every day. So it'll be a nice, refreshing experience for me. I know you find that hard to believe, but since school committees are pretty much my life, it will be nice to be on the other side of the table.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to meet you and to have you be part of our committee.
Thank you.
So I will reach out and I'll be touching base tomorrow, hopefully.
Great. And I see you're going to discuss school improvement plans, so I'll stick around for a little
Excellent.
while and hear about that.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. It does not appear that Cole will be here. Totally fine. Next is new business. We are going to do a swap, if it's all right with everyone, and do the ski program presentation before the school improvement plans. Good?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Hello.
So, Allison Jordan, building principal at the Granby Junior Senior High School, and I have Austin Smith, who is one of our full-time dual enrolled students at HCC, with me, and senior, member of the class of 2025. So, we're here in a collaborative effort to present Ski Club. And I told Austin I would do the bulk of the talking today. But I also felt it was really important for Austin to share his role in bringing this forward. This really stemmed from Austin and stopping me in the hallway, some email exchanges, probably since last spring. We've been talking about it, and it's really challenging to start a club in the late spring of a school year. And especially if there's no stipend attached to it, which is enticing for a staff member to take it on. There's a bit of history with Granby having a ski club, and it was really implemented from Jim Petrus and through the Lions Club in Granby, which was incredible. He facilitated the entire thing. Actually was in conversation with Jim Petrus the other day when I let him know that we had this coming, and told him I would pick his brain a bit. So we're trying to find some information from the past to share with the school committee so you're aware of how it all came about. And what I can really share with you is Jim Petrus ran pretty much all of it, and it wasn't necessarily connected to Granby Junior Senior High School with the exception of having our students participate. So what we're here to do today is propose the idea of using one of our unfilled club stipends to stipend a position for Ski Club. So we have 2 unfilled positions, and we wanted to give you an idea of the survey that Austin created and shared out with the student body to solicit some feedback if there was any interest.
So, in this past spring and now, as I'm doing these college visits to hopefully go to in the future, I can see that like there's a lot of students from other schools that have a lot of opportunities for clubs that we don't necessarily offer, and that was hoping that I could start a club myself to help with that. And I chose skiing because last winter, I went with a big group of people skiing from, current students and formerly graduated students. And it got me thinking of why we didn't have a ski club, because I can see that there's a lot of interest in it. Should I do the results? So last spring we did a survey on a Google form for grades 7 through 11 that we sent it out to, and over the course of sending the survey out twice, we had 31 people who said that they would be interested in participating in a ski club if we offered it.
So typically that's a first step in trying to gauge interest in the student body to see, and I felt 31 students was an incredible amount. So what that then led us to was the reality of this can't happen in the spring. For one, there's no snow. It depends what state you're in. But let's look at something that we can potentially run for next year. So Austin and I went back and forth in email, and I said I would do some more homework in area schools to see what they provide for their students. And we play nice in the sandbox with Hopkins, through some of our work with the IT pathway and with South Hadley because they're so close, and with cooperative sports. So I thought maybe we can align it similar to a cooperative sport, and reached out, and both schools responded, but we connected a little bit more with Hopkins. And so the idea of working with Hopkins was to see if we could jump on board with transportation to help offset the costs for the students, because we know that's going to be a reality soon, is talking about that. And also joining in their student body, because the minimum number to sign up at Berkshire East for their programming, you have to have a minimum of 10 participants in order to qualify for that discounted rate. So they were on board with sharing that piece, but not the transportation piece. So I understood that, and been working with the person who oversees the ski club programming at their school, and they provided us with a lot of great information. There was their first meeting of the year, September 25th. I was unable to make it, but she was able to share the information on the programming, which is what I have here today. I brought a copy, not for everyone. I brought 4, and they're paper clipped and stapled. You can pass them around, but I highlighted a couple things on here. That the program starts in early June. The program really can last anywhere
Early
from,
January, not June.
did I say June?
Yeah, she did since.
Skip ahead, fast forwarding.
I meant January. January and ending in late February. So your school would sign up, so we would have to sign up on the same day as Hopkins. And because we're part of that group, and pick a day of the week to do it. I believe when Mr. Petrus did it, it was on Fridays. So really, having an advisor oversee the club, they would be doing the bulk of organizing. Right now, I'm bringing information to you, and I don't have all the answers aside from what's outlined in here, which may be able to answer some of your questions. We would treat it very similar to sports. We would have to set something up on Family ID. There's the liability piece. They have waivers at the mountain that you need to sign off on. It seems as if a lot of schools in our area have ski club already, this type of programming. We had, this is separate, and I'm sharing this with you. We had participated in it was an Alpine with Pope Francis. Pope Francis, I think it was one of my first years here. Back in 2015, maybe 16, I think when I took over as athletic director, I think that was when we had, we had 1 or 2 students that participated, and then that student had graduated, and it just went away. We didn't really have much more interest, but this is separate of that. So that was something that was governed by the MIA. This is not, this is separate from that. And I mean, I won't go over everything, but it looks as if, we would need to appoint an advisor to oversee the next steps in the process. So we have a family we can join, it's for our first year, especially because I feel like we can't go independent until we're able, to be on our own. There's a lot of questions that we would have, sure families would have. And being able to sustain the position. So I said earlier, we have 2 unfilled positions. The stipend amount is $631.24 for the programming. So that would be filling that stipend with ski club. So we had a couple clubs that weren't filled. One of the clubs I'm proposing is to introduce ski club in place of that.
So
What questions do you have?
I have lots. But I have to finish the thought first.
Do you need volunteers for chaperone?
Likely. In every 10 students, there's a free chaperone ticket.
Probably already getting a season pass for, so we'll be all right.
So it says Fridays, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So how would that work? It's going to be a club, not missing school, right?
Correct.
It would be after
Correct.
school.
How Jim Petrus ran it is the students would board the bus after school and they would go up to the mountain and they would return later at night.
Okay,
It really depends on when your block of time is.
sure. And then, so I know one of your yeses is a potential winter athlete. So I don't know how, if you played a winter sport, you wouldn't be able to necessarily do it every week, right? So is it like, would you sign up to say you're interested or you're locked in? How does that work? Like, what is,
Great question. I could imagine we would have multiple people. I think that's the tricky part, right? And you can't necessarily miss your school activity, right?
Right.
Your committed MIA sport for something like this. So yes, it would have to be the sign up and we wouldn't be able to amend the cost.
Right.
It's one set flat rate,
mm-hmm,
Yeah, it says there's
think-
no refunds.
I can talk about the experience for my own children when they did ski club. You've signed up for whatever it was for the 6 weeks of the skiing, and then fortunately they were able to do it. But if you can't make it, then
right.
that was my experience because somebody was sick once, and I knew you just. So But
I'm
there
just
could be-
curious, like, of the 31 people, I know one for sure
Mhm.
happens to share my address. So I know that she's like, yeah, I love to ski,
Mhm.
but there weren't all the final details. So I'm curious, out of the 31 students, how many of those are also winter athletes that don't understand that it would necessarily conflict or remove them? Because I know Meredith was thinking maybe it would be on a weekend, like, oh, we'd be able to have time on a Saturday to go or get a bus or whatever. So that's one of the things I know especially with a partnership with Hopkins, I think it's fantastic because we would be able to get to that number. But then the transportation piece, if it's really, 7 students from Grammy that are going to do it, how does that work for transportation and what does that look like? It just making sense or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, and I think schedules are done for winter, and
Mhm.
I would find sitting with Mr. Dubuque would be appropriate to
Mhm.
see what day is the least impacted day, and
Mhm.
then go from there. And again, I'm trying to partner with Hopkins, they could already have a date, and I think if it's first year doing it, first time doing it under our roof, that it would be important to maintain that relationship with them.
Oh, of course. I'm just asking like how it would work, and if some of those people that we think are interested don't realize that it would conflict with something that like basketball or swimming or wrestling or
Yeah.
there's another one I think for winter sport. So I think it's fantastic personally. I would love to see how it come together. I'm just trying to figure out logistically how it would work so that a lot of those people that are interested that don't realize it's going to be a conflict would be able to still partake, and the remaining people have the ability to do it. Like, I don't want to take it away because we're thinking of the other athletes, the winter athletes. So, aren't you a winter athlete?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I used to be, but
Yeah.
not this year.
So just thinking of that. Other questions? I'm talking enough.
Stipend's not currently in use, right? So it'd just be transferring it to
Correct.
this use.
Yes, we had 2 unfilled.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like everybody's fired up about it.
It's
So-
it's cool to be able to introduce a club and have some more offerings. I think it's awesome. I have questions about transportation, and I'd like to see what that looks like. Because I don't want to say, all right, great, we've got the stipend covered, but transportation for us to do it is going to be $6,000 because it's a bus and it's winter and it's then that might be a bitter pill to swallow. I'm just throwing numbers around. I have no idea what it would look like, because that is and I don't know if we did it, can people buddy up in a car, or how does that work? Can they?
Right, and I feel like we would definitely need those numbers in order, it would be silly to get a school bus. That's why we were trying to jump on board with Hopkins.
Right.
And South Hadley very well may say to us, we're going up on Friday, you can come in with us because we've done that before with them
Mhm.
for wrestling. And so I think that piece is unknown.
Mhm.
I don't think we wanted to go too far down before, bringing it here and sharing the information out. But we have some time on our side, which is a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
And, start putting it out there. And we very well could have staff that have more experience. This is really didn't really have much. I was pretty straightforward with Austin. I'm like, this is the first roommate, buddy. We gotta figure this out together because it's a lot, especially if you're unfamiliar with it.
Right. And so it would be one night a week for the duration of 4 to 6 weeks,
Right.
whatever night. As something else, as I'm thinking about this, if we have that stipend for a club, could we consider doing like a group trip on a weekend, pick 4 or 5 random dates and do something like that? It would still count as a ski club. It could still be sanctioned by the school, because Mr. Petrus also did trips like that. Meet at the school at 7 a.m. There's a bus, you go, and we didn't always go to Berkshire East. Now, Mr. Petrus was my 6th grade math teacher, and he's been running trips since then, and I'm old now, so there are other ways that we could do that to introduce a club. And we would come, get on the bus, go, parents would follow, kids would ski, come home on the bus, stop at McDonald's, you know, it was a lot of fun. And we went to other mountains besides just,
Yeah.
Berkshire East.
Yeah, that's good thinking too, and I think we could definitely, for your suggestion, look at 2 different routes.
Mhm.
They really depend on interest.
Right.
You know, so if we have 5 kids, we would have more flexibility, I would say, to be able to entertain. And if the 5 kids are 5 athletes, then we would have to likely shift and look at a weekend.
Mhm.
You know, we're always up against something, whether they're working or PSATs or whatever they have.
Of course, yeah. I would love to see how we can get this implemented because I think it would be great. Like you say, Austin, when you go with your kids to other places and you're listening to all the different events that they have, or, you know, we do a damn good job with what we've got, but it would be nice to be able to come up with some other options. So I personally love this idea and I would love to see some more information. So I think we have a meeting again in 2 weeks. Do you think you might have more time to fill in some blanks?
Austin said yes.
Yep.
I'll get you on the agenda.
And if not, just send us an email and we'll push you to the next one because I don't see, it says December 1st, so we have plenty of time.
Right.
But it would be nice to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit.
What specific information would you be looking for?
Transportation, how that piece is gonna work. What the interest looks like as far, you know, we're serious about this. Do you have a conflict with a winter sport you plan on attending? I mean, there's people that sign up for a sport, then they maybe don't make the team or they change their mind or whatever. Maybe if they're waffling, maybe they'll be like, oh, I just want to do school club. I don't want to go out for this, that, or the other thing, and see what that interest looks like. Any other things that you guys want to have as far as missing pieces?
Off the top of my head, is tonight informational or did you need to vote on that stipend?
So it was really interesting because the stipend's technically already voted on.
Okay.
So because it lives in the unit A
Right.
and it's unfilled, it exists.
Okay.
And I think I unchecked the box for that because I was like, well, they don't have to vote to approve a new club. And Todd's giving me the side eye, which he's gonna tell me I'm wrong, which is
Oh, no, I
fine.
just know that last year we voted to transfer the yoga club to the to the weightlifting as a stipend. So I know that there was a vote by the committee last year to transfer the use of the
The
stipend.
use of it.
Because it was itemized out as a yoga and we were changing that. So we need to do
Right.
that. So if this one is unfilled, I think we would have to do a vote to say that it's going to be for ski club so that the accounting of it would
Right,
be
it would just be
accurate.
for this school year then,
Mhm.
because we already have established clubs. So, and that's what we ran up against this year with bringing weight room in and yoga in. You know, we're not running those because they're not in the unit A contract as a stipend, because those were in the same process, right, that we were just talking about. So it would go back to the default clubs. And then when we renegotiate the Unit A contract
Right.
is a good opportunity to say, get rid of some of the existing ones that go unfilled and replace them with yoga that's more up and coming and weightlifting and ski club,
Mhm.
for example. So, and we're happy to wait. I can hit the checkbox on the vote piece, but I would prefer if we then wait for the next meeting so I can hash out the transportation.
Yeah, transportation is really the biggest question for me. Interest is really falls on you guys. But what I don't want to do is agree to something and then it's going to put us over on transportation or, you know, having to be short somewhere else.
Right. Got it.
Maybe carpooling might be a
Yeah, I mean, like,
solution, and
what are the
Yeah.
options? You know, can we legally do a carpool thing if it's a club?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm impressed by the initiative.
Thank you.
Just setting it up and coming in here and having a novel idea and having the energy to go before a group of people. I want to support this. So
Thank you.
just keep grabbing the details, come on back, and let's get this finalized and rolling. It's all downhill from here.
nicely done.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you have an idea of what the pricing would be? I don't know if that's,
I don't think lift ticket prices are out yet, so it's probably not gonna
I
be.
think there's something bolden in here that says that the rates are not finalized.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I think I said.
I don't have one of those, so yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I just want to make sure that when we put it out there that, have that information out before they sign up too,
Right.
because they may want it and they say, gee, I can't, you know.
Yeah, like I said, they had the meeting on the 25th, but I didn't go. The
Okay.
person I was talking with at Buckin said they were happy to share the information, and let them know that Granby was looking to jump on board. So I have not followed up with that person yet, but I can and just see if they received any additional information. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks so
thanks
much.
for coming in.
This is great. We gotta make this happen. Oh, they do have something in here about single day visits. Okay. Alrighty. Next up is school improvement plans. Do you want to go first, Ally? Since you're already up here, you ran away too quickly.
Okay. Allison Jordan, building principal, Granby Junior Senior High School. I present to you our school improvement plan for the 24-25 school year. You will see that there have been very little changes to the school improvement plan as our district improvement plan remained pretty much the same. I know that we had all met as leadership and updated the district improvement plan, and the assistant principal, Scott Frenier, and I updated our school improvement plan and brought it before the school council last week. And we haven't received any comments or suggestions back on the document. We were in conversation and reviewed the goals with members of the school council. But again, it is very similar to how it looked last year, with a big focus on goal 1 on data and using IXL, using our walkthrough data with our partnership with TNTP, MCAS data that was just released. Last year, we did the best that we could to try to utilize our team leaders, and also our student support team members and our grade 7 and grade 8 teams to be able to utilize the data. I think there's work that can be done in that area for sure. So when developing the PD plan for the year for the staff, there's 4 different dates for the staff to review data. We were calling it a data dive, and we're just waiting for all the information to be at our disposal. So the MCAS data that was released from the embargo, we are now in a place where we should be able to move forward with reviewing all the data, especially in the dashboards where it's all housed in a one-stop shop. I also do feel it would be appropriate to encourage our teachers to sit down with some of our students to review some of the questions, the specifics on the MCAS student reports. I spent a couple hours today looking at some of the students that weren't as successful and really trying to see what areas that we need to do better in. So I was looking at biology and I was looking at grade 10 ELA. And that information, again, we just got the student summaries delivered yesterday, so I wanted to hone in on some of that. But that information, we started having student conversations, but I think it needs to be more detailed and specific, and it's really helpful for the teachers so they know if there's any areas of missed instruction. Goal number 2 is around a continuum of support. This area has been in part of the school improvement plan for the last few years. This is ongoing work in our district. It's ongoing ready work. We've brought our ready work plan forward to the school committee before. It talks about the workshops we're doing, the partnership with the ADL, the partnership with CES, and the ongoing work to support all students in the district. It also includes reviewing our program of studies, our student handbook, reviewing, first I'm going to forget about this, just other procedures and processes such as dual enrollment that you're all well aware of, NHS bylaws, things that we have in place that we really need to screen through a different lens. So it's ongoing work, and I feel like we've made great strides in this area. It definitely is not easy work. There are some more specifics in here.
I like established student-led clubs, organizations, or affinity groups. Look at that.
Working on that.
The one area in here, I'm going to be honest with you, that was really, it was hard to take out, but we needed to take it out because we just haven't been able to commit to a portrait of a graduate. And I see other districts that have a portrait of a graduate, and I look at it and we study it, and I'm familiar with a district and where I live and looking at all the language, and I don't know what to make of all of it. It's really hard to, like, where do you even start? You know, because we're doing so much other work, it wasn't fair to start anything else. So I feel like having some of these existing structures in place and a good base and foundation would be appropriate before we move forward. So we did remove it off of our school improvement plan. Our third goal is really heavy around curriculum. As you know, we implemented IM for grades 7 math, 8 math, and 9, which is Algebra 1. And it is ongoing work. And we have, I want to say, they're bi-weekly meetings with the representative from TNTP for staff and administrators. And we're popping into classrooms, doing the observations and walkthroughs using the walkthrough tool. You will see there's some redundancy in this document that talks about the walkthrough tool and our relationship with TNTP. The walkthrough tool has a big focus on our priorities under the Granby Junior Senior High School roof. And one of the biggest areas is with the new teacher rubric. I had piloted the administrator one last year when it was engaging instruction, inclusive instruction, and they just changed a lot of the language. But we had created, Mr. Frenier and I, a student learning goal and a professional practice goal around this area to try, in an effort to try to get all the staff on the same page and shift towards this practice. So it talks about, on my column here, you can't see it, engaging inclusive instruction and inclusive practices. So part of our professional development plan is a lot of work this year targeted towards making the classroom an equitable and safe environment for students. And the last goal was the college and career readiness. And we did a lot of work last year. This section looks blank because we did a lot of work in this area. And I left a couple things because it's ongoing work. So we will continue to do the work with MyCap. And I believe you shared with me they accepted the grant.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in?
We're pending state funding.
Pending state funding. And last year we were awarded probably, I think, an additional $3,000. I'm rounding up. $3,000, and which was really nice because we were able to do different things as aside to just stipending the advisors. We were able to make more progress, which was necessary. So for MyCap, what we're doing now is branching off to our wellness classes and our freshman seminar class with work with the teachers, which is really cool. So I actually observed a classroom teacher today working in the freshman seminar class, which is awesome to see this work being done. And before we were kind of just at a standstill, but now they're popping into classrooms and they're being supported by, the students are being supported by the school counselor, the classroom teacher, across grade levels. You know, each grade level has a different like scoping sequence. So it's really cool to see it in action. Also, the biggie for us is the IT pathway. And right now we're looking at the students that could technically be grandfathered in. So are there any juniors or sophomores that could be grandfathered in that have taken the coursework that we created in the pathway? Because we were really starting with this year's class the ninth graders. So looking at that, and if we have a need to amend the grant to reflect like covering the cost of transportation, because that's always our biggest hurdle, and or coursework. So seeing if there's any students that really fall within that. And the work needed to be done by today, October 1st, because of the how you report the coursework to the state. So we had to identify the student enrolled and the courses that were designated IT. So that's some of the work that we've been doing in that pathway. And additional work is really focused, Sarah Bearden and Brian Cipollaro are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, working on field trips, college and career field trips. And so there's not as much of a focus on college, but also on the career. So construction field trips, I think women in engineering. So there's field trips that are all in the works, which is really cool. So aside from that, I think just continued work in dual enrollment. As we alluded to introducing Austin, we have 5 students enrolled full-time. So we will continue to do the work to support our students and bring in different things for the kiddos. I did just receive confirmation from one of the groups that attended our parent caregiver night is going to be joining our SST. And this program is really designed to support students that are on the verge of dropping out, that are possibly older students that are a couple years behind and that would be able to fulfill in a certificate program. So we'll be meeting with them on October 22nd, I believe it's a Tuesday. So that's really cool to kind of build on some of these relationships. And that really started through Mass Hire, which is the work through MyCap that we've been doing. So, and those are the 4 goals. Again, not many changes to the goals.
Any questions for Ally?
There's Blatt here.
And there's not many changes, but there's a lot of work
There is a lot of work
and a lot of work that's already been done.
and things I probably didn't share with you today that aren't on here. You can't capture it all,
No.
but I think seeing it and understanding now, that's why Portrait of a Graduate isn't on here, because it's not possible to be able to run it with fidelity right now. I think it's something that we can table for the year and then revisit after we have established more of these partnerships.
I just have some generalized questions so I can learn some stuff. For goal number 2, for equitable access and inclusion, for READY, what is the difference between equality and equity?
That is a great question, right?
Right.
So I view equality and equity, and someone had to ask me this too. So students should be able to have the same access to all their educational materials. Okay. And the equity work is really the work that needs to be done to support the whole student and the processes and procedures around it and looking at it as a whole. There's a lot of work that was done. I could allude to the NHS, for example, right? We have things in place in Granby that were in place that I didn't find was equitable. And I feel like several parents agree that wasn't equitable practice. So if you're full-time dual enrolled as a student and you were part of the NHS, you are no longer considered to be part of the NHS because now you don't live under the Granby roof. So that was something that we sat with the NHS and we kind of reviewed and updated to reflect an equitable front. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
The best example, have you seen it too? Like being able to see over a fence. Like you want to have everybody be able to see over the fence, but you have someone that's 5 foot tall and you have someone that's 6 foot tall and they both can't see until you give them a boost. But what you give them is not equal, meaning the person that's 5 feet tall needs a much bigger step than the person who's 6 feet tall. So that they can both see and access the same thing. So equity does not always equal equality.
Right.
Can.
but it doesn't always.
Does that mean inherent, um, sorry, I'm thinking as I'm going, just because I'm learning as I'm going. Does that mean that each student doesn't get an equal share of whatever process or, I don't know.
More of the resources
a-
get spread out based on each individual's needs, so they can all be at the same level. They don't all get the same resources. They get the resources they need to be at the same spot. So
Right.
you all get a ladder, but the 6-foot person gets a shorter ladder than the 4-foot person.
And I would say you can see some of that when you think about your kids in the classroom.
Mhm.
Some kids may have more one-on-one time with the teacher to help bring them up to where they need to be. Whereas other kids may not need that, but they still need the overall instruction to get to the end learning goal. So, they're all provided with the same resources, but someone might need a little more one-on-one time to get them to
Okay.
where it is that they're going. Like some students, their piece to bring them more equitable might be a para to help them.
All right, but we're not
Do that.
detracting from some students.
No,
They
no,
feel
no, no.
others.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that's a lot of the work that we're doing, is how to make everything, looking through what we have in place, going through it with a fine tooth comb, and why? Like, why are we doing it this way? How is this accessible to everybody? Right? So, because not every student learns the same way.
Right.
So you have to present things to me differently, right? So I can understand it versus how Todd may understand it.
And I think
Right.
that goes to show why we changed the math curriculum, because it has a lot more manipulatives and ways to do things, because everybody doesn't learn the same exact way. So it's kind of doing that same work, giving different ways to do things with all opportunities for everybody.
And access, which is huge because, right, well, I could say, I'm going to repeat the same exact thing that I just said. So it's really just looking over all of that. I don't know if she had a better example.
Well, I think
But-
let me try to repeat what I've learned. So, making sure that all the students hit the assigned targets, realigning existing assets to make sure that they hit those targets, but not taking the available assets from students to realign them to other students. Is that right? Am I following?
You're
Yes.
following?
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. We want to make sure everybody's
Gotcha.
getting the services they need, right?
Okay. I just want to make sure we weren't taking from some to give to the other. Okay. All right. And I don't know what anti-racist is. Could you dive into that a bit? I'm sure nobody here likes racism, but I don't know what anti-racist is.
Where are you looking?
Integrate anti-racist and inclusive pedagogical strategies into instructional practices across all grade levels.
Where's that? I didn't see that.
It's on
Goal number 2.
under goal number 2.
Yeah, action steps.
It's on the second.
It's
next page
one of
of
the
that.
lower bullets.
So this work is work that is being done, I believe, through our partnership with, yes, our partnership and work with CES.
Mhm.
So when we do the work, when we do a lot of this work, it's again, I'm going to go back to a lens. It's looking through an equitable lens. It's looking to see if there's implicit bias in our teaching practices, implicit bias in our literature, and if there's bias in how we're handling our disciplinary proceedings, things of such. So we've had instances of racial words being used in the building, right? And bringing practices in to be able to support the students, right, that are the victims of, and using practices so the staff are able to support the students, and we all establish like a common language and how to combat the language of use, establish a common language which is appropriate to use, right? And being able to have a conversation about it. And so working with our student advisory group is where a lot of our work started. And there's not like a set curriculum, if you will. This is a lot of work that we're doing with the ADL and meeting with them and having conversations on how to be better in school. And we haven't started that work again this year, but it's for the staff. It's part of their professional development plan, and CES is slated to work. I think it's in a series of 6 workshops with our students this year, but we haven't got it off the ground yet. But it's work around that to support the students.
So I have to repeat it back to learn it well. So, so from what I'm hearing, it's appropriate language use in social settings and teaching the kids what that actually means when they say that, so they have a deeper understanding and understand why it's inappropriate. That's what anti-racism is.
So I don't want to go on quote unquote and around something that's super sensitive as a topic.
Well, it's a
Okay.
bullet in the goals.
It is.
So
It is. And I'm going to do the best that I can. My work is to lead our school to establish a shared understanding of what's appropriate and educate students that use language that's inappropriate. Okay. It's not to pass off it's not to pass off anyone's beliefs onto students or anything of such. The work it's work that's been ongoing in our district from the support of CES because of the sensitivity of the use of the words that we've experienced. As I said, we had some issues in the past couple years, which I feel like we've done a really nice job.
And some wasn't just words, some were symbols, correct?
We did have some symbols.
Yeah.
We did have some symbols. And again, the work can be done in multifaceted. It's work that is being done with our students through partnership with CES. It's work that's done with our staff. It's ongoing work. And I don't know if the work won't end. It's supporting the staff to be able to feel comfortable enough in their classrooms to address things when they come up and be able to hear the students when they are victims of it and to be able to understand the impact at large because there is an impact at large on here. And so if you're interpreting it as like this is a set curriculum,
honestly, I'm just trying to learn about what that
Okay.
means.
yeah, and I will tell you, it's conversations that Granby wasn't used to having here, and it's conversations that are really challenging to have. And we've had more and more conversations in the past couple years, and I feel like collectively as a staff and students, I feel like everyone's presenting better and more comfortable than when we were 3 years ago when it first started, when we were first seeing it.
Okay. I don't mean to slow us down, but I have one more question just because you referenced implicit bias in teaching procedures. Could you give me an example or two about what that means within the district here?
Yeah, so the first example that I would give you is we as a school have been doing work around novels. This is fresh, right? Novels that we're reading in class and examining some of the novels that we're choosing to read with students. And when was the last time we reviewed this list of novels? We call that it's our Granby reading list. It could be summer reading, it could be in-house reading, it could be anything, but really examining the novels that we're choosing. Are there authors? Are they all white female authors? Are they all Black? Do we have various other readings available for our students? So that's some of the work we've done. Other work that we've done is looking at our specific teaching practice and whether or not our teaching practice is equitable. We're using an equitable checklist to see as like a first classroom activity that we need to do with our staff. That was shared with us from CES. And that's really to examine some of our classroom policies and things that we do just because it's been a practice that we established 25 years ago. So it's examining that. It's looking through that equity lens. It's looking through to see if you're fair in how you're presenting. Another area from our student responses is our students felt that last year that administration wasn't fair in their discipline. And so their survey responses, when we put out the SAS survey last year, they felt that that was an area that we could improve in. They felt how we handled things wasn't fair. So we sat this summer and really looked through the handbook and made sure that we dissected it to see if things that we were doing were fair, if things were updated, like the regulations, the law, the MGL, everything, to see if there were things that we were doing that is the implicit bias. Other work is we attended 22 plus hours as a group last year in partnership with CES, with Sapphire and Tom, to put together a committee that reviewed the work that we were doing. So if there is an incident that comes up, a racial slur or a swastika or something that comes up, instead of having administration be the only two people to address the situation, to remove ourselves so it's looked at from a whole. And that was work that we felt was necessary, because at times you can be in a situation where you're working with a student that has maybe utilized the use of the N-word multiple other times, and then this, you have to, show ways of remediation prior to moving towards suspension. So then when you're sitting with the student on the 5th time, right, it's looked at from a committee versus looked at from two people that may just be the people making the decision. So it's to remove the bias all within when reviewing it. Did I break that down? I gave you a few examples.
I think I'm tracking. Yeah. So just yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the important thing is too that all of this work stems back to meeting educator standards that are put out by DESE.
Okay.
So like they're checking to make sure that like you're actively working on ensuring that there is no implicit bias and there is no bias when choosing curricular materials, implementing different practices, doing things like that. So all of that goes back to the standards that administrators are held to, teachers are held to, and ultimately gets tied back into DESE. So it's not, it's not a Granby move or initiative or anything like that. I think it's just significant for Granby because this is how the work is being done.
Okay, so it's a state level.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, these are state level.
Yeah, when one of your standards is ensuring that there's a safe
Okay.
learning environment and you're meeting diverse needs and you have to like go
Got it.
through and do all these things.
There were just so many bullets about like anti-racism and stuff like that. I was worried that we had a horrible racism problem here in the schools that
But it's
was like undercurrent and I was unaware of.
it's there because of the work that we've been doing, because it was needed to do it.
The undercurrent?
No, we needed to do this work. We didn't have structures and things in place
Mhm.
to be able to address, right, into address restorative practices. We didn't have, we brought in a lot of this work to be able to educate the students. There was a need for that. Okay, if we had a growing population of students that came into the district, and of the students are of different ethnic background, introducing students into Granby, which is primarily Caucasian, is introducing the cultures alone. And I think that's where we're doing a lot of this work, is trying to educate those students and say, we're going to talk about this now. We're going to have these conversations. Teachers, we need you to review the lesson plans that you're putting together, look at the novels that you're doing, look at your practices when you're standing in front of your students. Is your practice trauma informed? And there's a heavy emphasis on a lot of this work. Yes, you're right. And it has been ongoing for the last couple of years. And I feel confident about the work that we've done because we have sat with students, educated, met with families, right, and established partnerships. And I feel like the students have a better understanding, right, than what they did have a few years ago because of all this work. And their voices are being heard, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the SAS surveys, the Safe and Supportive Schools Act, and when we look at those survey results, I want to be able to see that our students feel safe in our building. And that means a lot to me, to be able to see those numbers. And we look at those and we read every response because we want to see what they're thinking. We want to see in their minds. And so when they fill out that survey and some of the things say, your discipline's unfair, you're right. I'm going to look at it and say, what are they talking about? What are we missing? So those are things. And the survey is very telling because that's our student voice.
Okay, so that would be the quantifiable metrics that you measure it off year over year.
Yeah, so last year was our first year running that specific survey because it was grant supported.
Okay.
Right, in the work, and there's another committee that oversees a lot of that work, and that is the work I keep referring back to with CES. So there's a lot of things, partnerships that we've established in the last couple of years that fall in this section because it is the bulk of a lot of the work that we're doing.
All right,
And
great.
it all falls under the same umbrella.
Honestly, thank you for walking me through all this.
I hope it was helpful.
That was
I
very,
didn't
very
dance around all
instructional.
of it.
No. I now have a better understanding of why it's in there and
Yeah.
why it's in there so much. I was just worried we had some horrific problem, but if it's a state mandate and we're following along and the SAS survey came back and it needed to be prioritized, like I can understand that. Okay, yeah. Sorry to pepper you with so many questions.
Oh.
I was just genuinely
more?
curious. Yeah. Okay.
But I understand, and if there's any additional questions that you have, I'm happy to entertain them. I may not have all the right answers at all the right times, but I'm very passionate about the work that we do, and like I said, you could ask somebody else and they could say explain better. Like Jill's can say the difference between equity and equality, and my version could look a little bit different. But I do know that if you talk to the students and the staff, they will share with you the amount of work that we are doing in this area.
As long as we're meeting our targets, not diverting assets from one student to another to meet those targets, and we're building a community, that's what I'm going for. I get worried about people being put in certain buckets, and that's kind of divisive as opposed to a holistic, we are one community here. So, yeah, I think you explained it very well. So, thank you for diving into it.
Okay.
And everybody else here, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'm just kidding.
I think we're
No,
good.
it's just, if you don't have to vote on
It's
these.
no, I don't
They
think you have
just,
to vote.
just have to present them.
Okay.
Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you. If there's any changes, like I said, I'm still waiting for suggestions from the school council. But if there's any changes, then I can update you on any of them.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks.
Lisa.
Right, thanks.
You need to plug it in.
No, I sent everyone,
Yeah.
The school improvement plan electronically.
I had it. It's in our folder.
Okay, all right. I just thought it'd be easier than trying to set it all there now with all that other stuff. The screen up there is tiny. Thanks, Ally. Good evening. Lisa Desjardins, East Meadow School Principal, and here to present the 24-25 school improvement plan. So just to begin, I'd like to just thank all the stakeholders in the building and then the community members who helped to provide input and feedback and put together these goals. It takes a lot of thought and work to really flesh out where we see the need for the work and to think about how that plays out and what it looks like for the whole year. And feels very ambitious, I'll say. It always feels very ambitious. Like the junior, senior high school, we have, our goals have stayed somewhat the same, but we've tweaked them as we started on the path of some of the goals last year, made our targets and made growth, but now we're kind of taking it to the next level in many situations. So the first goal is focusing on enhancing high quality instruction and student-centered learning. We're really looking to move away from a classroom where it's a stand and deliver type of instruction where the teacher is teaching, they're teaching one specific way, teaching all students, and there is not that type of equity built into the classroom. We have a couple of new curriculum that we are just beginning to implement this year. We have the I Am Math implementation and also the Empowering Writers at grades 4 through 6. And we're also spending we started last year, but we're starting to look at different ways to structure our classroom so that all students are engaged in meaningful discourse, that students are able to work together collaboratively. We want to be able to walk in and see students talking and discussing about what they're learning, for them to take ownership of their learning. And that also goes along with culturally responsive class practices. So that's where we're really looking at what kinds of experiences and cultural backgrounds that our students come with, because we want to build upon those strengths. Granby is becoming more diverse, and we want to ensure that everyone has access and everyone feels like they are part of our learning communities. And that also goes along with it. It's similar to inclusive instructional practices where everyone is able to access and participate and get their needs met within the teaching. Goal number 2, we are continuing to grow and looking at our scores and how students are achieving, not only in classroom assessments, benchmark assessments, state assessments, but overall, we want to see that they're continuing to grow in their ELA and in their math proficiency. We're still, seems like we're struggling with the effects of COVID, but really making some nice gains. And it feels like we have some structures in place to hone in on getting data and making some good decisions about what we're doing with that data so we can provide the targeted instructions and supports that students need. So we've already, we have the benchmarking 3 times a year. Many teachers are using progress monitoring as well to see if their students are making progress. We had our data team meetings last week, and we'll have action plans that we'll be looking at to implement for students that we feel need the more targeted instruction. We're also incorporating the Swiss and attendance information as well, because that also has an impact upon student learning. If students are coming to school or coming tardy every day, we're taking a really close look at that, and we've done a nice job in the last year, and I'll share that in a little bit. Continuing to build our multi-tiered systems of support. So we're at the point now where we've increased our win block, which is called What I Need. And it's the way that we're envisioning it. It's an all hands on deck, whatever teachers, special ed teacher supports, interventionists are available during that assigned block. It's sort of all hands on deck, and we're looking at how we're going to group the students so that, could be some students are working on, in a lower grade, phonemic awareness. Some students might be working on letter sound ID. Some working on learning how to write complete sentences or capitalization or maybe math facts. Or those students that really don't have an area of a deficit, they might be working in some kind of group where it's a literature study or working on some sort of independent project with teacher oversight. So we're really trying to get better at differentiating and looking at, like, what do we want to target, looking at that periodically, making the adjustments, and then shifting groups and continuing to move students along. And again, the next slide is goal area 2, focus continued. So we are continuing to look at assessment data, and the teachers have done a really great job on learning how to use our IXL, which is a benchmarking tool, as well as the Dibbles tool, and they have lessons that they can use, and you probably see some of it coming home with Chromebooks if in past years, and maybe this year already, but it's something that we keep a close eye on, and we really are getting so much better at using the data to think about what pieces in our curriculum that we're not hitting and that it's reflecting in the student data. And that's something we'll be taking a close look at, especially with MCAS data coming up. We have new science standards. We'll be assessed on the new science standards this year at MCAS. So we really want to get a handle on, what parts of our curriculum are we not hitting, where students consistently we're seeing patterns, and trying to get a handle on that and improving our instructional practices and sort of adapting our curriculum so that we are ensuring that all the standards are being hit. Goal number 3, this is, it's important to have a school where students feel safe and supported and their emotional needs are met, or they really can't be good, they can't be successful learners academically. So really looking at the whole child and continuing to improve upon our PBIS. We've made some changes in our systems this year, continuing to celebrate student academic success. We are continuing now with our second year of the bullying prevention program, and we'll also be pulling in Mark again to hold some bullying prevention assemblies, and continuing on with our student council representation, which they did an awesome job last year. They made a buddy bench in the back of the school. We're looking to expand upon that, and it just seems to keep growing every year. So we're really pleased with the student ownership piece and how much students love to be part of that and what they can bring to the school. And we're constantly brainstorming new ways to get them to be more visible and taking ownership of their own school. Again, more social and emotional development on the next slide. One of the changes this year is the social workers are now sometimes going into the lunchroom and sitting at the tables with students and having lunch groups in there. So it's more of a push-in, more of a, sort of collaborative, having lunch with a buddy in there. And they've also begun developing schedules to visit each classroom monthly, focusing on a social emotional topic using literature and going into the classrooms and reading with the students, having prepared lessons and connecting that to our PBIS and our core values. One of the things that we noticed with the social workers is that they're often only working with the students who are having challenges. And I wanted them to get a better handle on knowing all the students in the classrooms and becoming a familiar face so that they're known to everyone and not just when they're having a moment or they're sad or having trouble with something. I just wanted them to be integrated more, and that the teachers are really excited about it, and the social workers, I think, for the most part are. But it's a new thing, and we're going to go for it, and it's kind of exciting the way it's evolved. Again, Girls on the Run. I'm happy to say we've hired a coordinator for the 21st Century After School Programming, and she started Monday, and she's coming to staff meeting tomorrow to talk about what the program is going to look like. And we're looking to hire now instructional directors to lead the programs, and we're just so excited that we have this grant because a lot of communities applied, did not get it. We're just thrilled that we got it, and it should be in place for a number of years. And I just think it will offer so much for the students in Granby. There's no rec department in Granby. There's not a lot for kids to do after school. And so now we will be able to provide enrichment programming every day, 5 days a week. We have money for transportation. We have money for snacks and materials. It'll run till 5:30, offer homework support, snacks, outside playtime, but then the enrichment activities, and they'll be focused around mathematics. That was the theme that we picked. We thought it would be a nice segue from our new illustrative math program to really keep honing in on the mathematics pieces. we'll continue to have PBS events, which the kids absolutely love, and they're always asking for more, and we just keep thinking of new ideas. And so if you have any, please let me know. Finally, last year we, in our accountability report, we had a 0 for attendance. And this year we have a 4. So last year we really targeted, and I'm going to credit Mr. Rosenberg and Caitlin Falcone because they really took the bull by the horns, and we sent out letters, we held meetings. Not everyone was happy to get those letters, but it's the law, and we really stuck to it, and it made a huge difference. The 0 on the accountability report impacts our rating as a school, and to go from a 0 to 4 in 1 year is just pretty remarkable. But it's all due to the efforts of my staff. So we're going to continue on with that because attendance still continues to be an issue. We know that the students who are late or tardy, those are the students that are coming up as below grade level, well below grade level, and struggling. So it's critical that we continue to reinforce, stay on top of it, and get those kiddos to school. I mean, I've gone so far as we've had to go and pick up kids just because they couldn't get a ride, and we'll come get you because it's that important to us. We want families to know that. So that's East Meadow in a nutshell. Any questions?
A lot of great work here too as well. Thank you for all the work on here.
Thank you. I now understand equity, so I don't have to
Yeah.
ask you about that. Yeah, the PBIS is a great program.
It really
My
is.
kids are always fired up about
Are
it.
they?
Yeah.
Great.
And your story about keeping the Matchbox car for that one individual student
Yeah.
resonated with me last year. So that's a good program.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate the feedback. All right.
Any questions for Lisa?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We're on to school choice and the enrollment dashboard.
There really hasn't been any change. There's been one student enrolled at the high school, but the numbers aren't in here because today's October 1st. So it's just been one new student at the high school. So those numbers haven't changed.
So is that this is the number that we reported then for Sims today?
Yep. That's it reported for today.
That's going to end up hurting us in the long run because it's low, right?
Probably. So we're gonna have to do a better job in one of, I'll talk about it. Yes. The numbers have not changed. What grade do you have a student in? What, you had one new student this month?
Yes.
7th grade. I couldn't remember for 7th or 8th. She told me today. So new 7th grade. That's all we have.
Any questions or anything on the dashboard or school choice? Okay, so now we'll take a break for our subcommittees. We have policy and finance. It's 7:50. Is half hour enough time?
For me,
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
could go till midnight, really, right?
Right.
Like,
several weeks.
Well, why don't we touch base at half an hour and see what we're thinking? So we're gonna pause here with the feed and we'll break into our group and we'll be back at about 8:20-ish. And we're back. All right, policy. One of you.
Sure. We went through section C just to make sure it was in line with the current mask policies. There weren't too many changes, a few sections that were redundant based on pre-existing or other newer subsections. We kind of struck out anything that wasn't with mask and combined a couple, again, to make them in line with the overall state.
Sweet. So we'll have a first read soon-ish.
next meeting.
Fab. You guys are rock stars. Anything else?
No.
Did you want to first read on the next agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
I can get in there and make a copy of what's there and then go through any of the changes so everyone can see them and it should be good.
Excellent. Finance, Mike.
So we went over the fiscal year 26 budget calendar, the draft of it, and kind of refined some of the dates and did some brainstorming about alternate ways to cover potential capital projects. And we're in the very initial phases of that budgeting process, and it's a good start. Yeah.
One thing we did talk about is how to generate interest for people to attend our public forum. We want to try to have that public forum earlier so we can actually get some input from people. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm not sure what we can do differently to try to engage with people and have them come so that we can have actual conversation. So I'm certainly open to ideas.
Can we do like a primer through GCAM or something like that?
Say it again.
Can we do a primer through GCAM? Just kind of like general bullet points, and then say if you want to actually like get the full thing. I don't know how. It seems like there is a pocket of audience that looks at that.
Yeah, there certainly is. So I think we have to try to do that, but we really need the people to be here
Yeah.
and engaged. So we did have good luck the one year we tried to do when we did it. Wow, let me try to get a full sentence out. We did it on Zoom during COVID.
Oh yeah.
We were in person, but we had people call in, and we actually had, I won't say robust, but we definitely had some interaction. So I don't know if we can still offer something like that. Maybe instead of having it in person, if we can do a Zoom meeting, I'm not sure where we land with that.
No longer have Zoom licensing,
Okay,
because to get the webinar module that would require was thousands of dollars, so I was obviously asked to remove that out of the
Mhm.
budget, because it wouldn't pay $6,000 a year for something that might be used for one night or 2 nights or whatever.
yeah. So does, I wonder if GCAM has something that, if we did it through,
Yes, we could use their license if they'd let us, if they have one.
yeah. Or, just maybe let's brainstorm and bring it back for next time, some ideas of how to do it. Because, we went all out with Chartwells and had it catered and, set up in the cafeteria, and we've set up in this room. I know a previous school committee member made her own flyers and went and tried to engage with people at the Dunkin' Donuts, and, just really, so I'm at a lot, like I personally have run out of ideas, like I'm not really sure, but, and we're looking at, early to mid-December for that. So that gives us enough time to engage with them, see if there's any ideas, things that are important to them, so that as we're building out and finalizing the budget, we can try to take those things into account. And then the other thing that we talked about, and it's, we've been around and around on this, but just revisiting, is what are some things that we could do to increase our revenue for the school? Different ideas. What is there something that's a nugget that's we're missing, like we're overlooking, whatever it may be. But I feel like there's got to be something that we can do to help us to be able to create some revenue, because I feel like the budgets, we're gonna have a tough, we're in it now. There's no ESSER money left. Our enrollment's down. Those two things are not very nicely paired together. So,
We talked about alternate uses of school facilities via leases during non-school times for potential income, but there were some concerns about safety-related issues and cleanliness and things of that nature. So we're kicking around ideas.
so just, I guess, let those niggle in the back of your head, and maybe we can come up with something. Because it would be nice to go to the town and say, hey, we're going to use the building in these different ways to try to help offset some of the problems that we have. You know? I don't know. Anyway, I think that's all that we have. Do you have anything to add?
Nope.
All right. Standing reports. Mary Jane.
As a continuing of the Ready work, I attended a conference on Monday, September 23rd, to the Department of Education, and it was a workshop focusing on helping districts create goals, creating a culture of equity, again, which is what we talked about earlier today. And specifically, they were talking about how to look at your curriculum to help ELL learners. So we don't have a lot of ELL learners, but some of the resources that they provided may be helpful to us in the future. So this really worked. This work directly aligns with our strategic objectives, high quality instruction, and safe and supportive schools. So the information was really directed to our district walkthrough tool that we've been using on a weekly basis. Lisa kind of alluded to it, but we do have a new site coordinator for the 21st Century Grant, and it is Roxanne Buxbaum. So she has been in other districts like East Hampton for 14 years working on programs like this. And so, as Lisa said, she's going to be meeting with the staff tomorrow afternoon, and information is going to come out to the families about how this after-school program and before-school program can support us in the future. Just going to be a little update on dual enrollment. We have 37 dual enrollment students, 5 of which are full-time. And we partner with HCC and the Elms, so I just want to put that out. So we do have a student that is doing full-time Elms and SNHU, SNHU. So that's what we have for that. And I just want to remind everybody that the Commonwealth Dual Enrollment Partnership was formed by the Department of Ed. Our students can take 2 courses in 1 year, one in September and one in January. And anybody that is a full-time student is paying the institution's rate for the ones that want full-time. So I attached that link so you can take a look at it, just what it looks like. We also have 5 students enrolled as part of the Collegiate Academy from UMass in a early college program. And so we work on that early college program with Hatfield, Hadley, East Hampton, and yeah, there's us 4. And we have 5 students that are now participating in synchronous learning and asynchronous learning Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, they meet with the professor from UMass, with the other students from the other districts in a sociology class. So we're looking to increase our partnership with them as well. And they're actually looking at some pathways for our students, which include business, engineering, education, arts, health, and some STEM. I also included a link for that as well. So that's something we're really trying to increase our participation with, increase our on that. On Wednesday, September 25th, I met with Representatives Mindy Dom and Dan Casey. They stopped by to introduce themselves to me, actually, so it was really nice.
Dan Carey.
Oh, Carrie? No. Okay, thanks. I think I was calling him Casey. So topics we discussed, they were talking about early college and dual enrollment programs, and they pledged to offer us continued support and grant funding and allocation through advocacy and allocation. So if we're applying for grants, really let them know they really want to take the opportunity to work to make sure that Granby gets the money that we're looking. So I'm really going to be reaching out to those folks. But Dan Carey will be leaving for a new position in the courts at East Hampton, and I think it's going to be Gomes, maybe the new person we're going to have. I think it's Gomes. So we'll be having that person as our new rep. MCAS data was released this past week, and both Allie and Lisa mentioned that we've started preliminary work with the MCAS. We have made some strides in the last year, substantial progress, but of course there's areas we need to look at as a group to hone in on where our students need some support. So the admin team will be looking at our district data at the next week at our district instructional leadership team meeting, and the schools have already started looking at theirs. We have a new program for some of our students called Unified Basketball. It's through the MIAA. The Unified Basketball is a sports program that brings together students with and without intellectual disabilities to play basketball as a team. We have 5 students already who are interested in participating. And so, you don't have, you could be a starting out player, you could be somebody with, experience, but it's really just to get, students, to participate that normally wouldn't participate in other sports.
This, I don't believe is new. We've had this for the past couple of years,
we did?
actually. Yeah.
Oh,
I think this might be our third or fourth season, actually.
oh, excellent. Perfect.
Continuation.
Yeah.
When Nicole, my special ed director, said it, because new, I said, yeah, okay, well, anyway, we're doing unified basketball again.
Well, you guys are both new, so it feels new to
New to
me.
you.
So there we go. So, there, and I actually asked Todd today, he actually, no one knew the answer to this question. I was wondering how they played unified basketball during basketball season or during volleyball season. He said it's between those two seasons that they do that. Because we have basketball, volleyball now and then basketball later. So I said, where do they practice it? He goes, it's between. So I should have known you knew that because it was more than 1 year. But that's all I have right now.
Todd.
Couple updates. So, as we talked about with the budget subcommittee, so I put the draft calendar in your folder. So if you want to take a look at that, some of the dates that are highlighted in yellow are dates that are going to change based on staff meetings for the different buildings, things like that. So there is still a little bit of movement in that. But if you have questions, please let me know. I applied for and got an extension for the end of the year report till the end of October. There's some areas that I'm looking for a little bit more information so I can move forward with that. And then we did get notification of approval of a number of grants, computers, science and engagement grant, hate crime prevention grant, MyCap grant, which Ms. Jordan had been talking about, our innovation career pathway for the IT, and then our safe and supportive school grants. We've also submitted our applications for our title grants and our IDEA grants. And lastly, as was also mentioned from our subcommittee report, we've fully expended ESSER funds. And so we're be looking forward to those challenges as we navigate our budgets with those federal funds now expended. So that's all that I have.
Kitchen.
We talked about this previously, that we'll be going out to bid, having those bid documents in January to have everything available for March. So
I'm just gonna keep on it, that's all. And are we finally back to square from the lightning strike 2 years ago?
yes.
Okay. Anything else for Todd?
Well, I was just looking at the fiscal year budget calendar. November's, I haven't looked at the others, but November's dates are
Yeah, there's some,
weird because, well, it says Tuesday, November 5th, and then Tuesday, November 7th.
Yeah, we know,
Yeah.
we recognize that. He was just
Okay.
like trying to keep the number of weeks that we had and
Yeah.
number of appointments, and
Okay.
that's why he was saying that all the stuff in yellow is probably going to change.
Well, that's not a deal.
there's some,
Oh,
yeah, there's,
Okay. I'm trying to look ahead because my schedule gets funky then.
so so anything in November, December, for the full committee will just be updates in a regularly scheduled school committee meeting. Typically in January, we'll have a meeting with the chair of the school committee and the select board representative and the town administrator. So that would be outside of our regular. Once we get into March and April is when we'll have the additional meetings for public forums and hearings. But for the committee itself, it'll be just during regular meetings.
Okay.
So you don't have to adjust your schedule too much yet.
Yeah. I was like, November 28th, that's Thanksgiving. Anyway.
So we'd be very thankful with a balanced budget.
Jill.
So I do have a review of the executive director's report. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the meeting due to a work commitment. But they did gather for their 50th anniversary celebration at CES. They reviewed what's happening in some of the special education in institutional settings, and the Department of Youth Services settings. There was a lot of discussion around the professional learning communities that they're working with to try to provide opportunities for educators. More specifically, those that are not often kind of represented in the general kind of professional development that districts may offer. So things like art educators, health and PE educators, early childhood educators, and things like that to provide some different opportunities for them. And the other piece that they shared that I thought was helpful, and I will put it within our resource folder. It's kind of a breakdown of both the Franklin and Hampshire County use of services. So Granby's included in there with using everything from the occupational therapy center to itinerant services, which is like occupational therapy again, but vision therapy, orientation and mobility, some on-site PD, professional learning communities, licensure support, special education consulting, the Title III grant, there's a legal issues seminar, and then everything through like healthy and family communities. Pretty much Granby's taking advantage of everything, except for maybe the youth mental first aid. There's a lot within early childhood and the enrichment program that was highlighted, the after school for the 21st century grant.
Excellent. All right. Is there anything else? All right. Our next meeting, I think, is the 15th. Anything that we want to make sure is Chartwell's coming?
We anticipate Chartwell's attended.
Okay, great. Anything else?
We'll add the
Can
policy.
you just let me know what policy you're gonna be doing?
See.
C.
Oh, all-
Section C, all of C.
Oh, okay, all
That's
of
what we
section
went
C.
through.
Okay.
It's shorter.
Okay.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone through it.
I just didn't know if
As
you picked one or
quickly.
two. Okay, perfect. Got it.
And I think that's it, right? Like we can, we don't need to do subcommittees because we just met. Maybe some things will come up. I will follow up with Kathy about, Liz, and maybe she'll be able to attend if we can get all of that, coordinated and straightened out. So I think that's it. I mean, stuff might pop up between now and then, but other than that, I will take the motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.